Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to have a bit of a discussion today. There has been a now deleted post that is causing a little bit of drama in the Wuthering Waves space, or really just the collab in the gacha space as a whole, and that is going to be this reveal over here by Wen D. Lee VO, the official voice director for Cyberpunk Edgerunners EN dub. And so you can see a post confirming Cyberpunk X, Wuthering Waves, Lucy, and Rebecca. But one thing you're going to be noticing over here when it comes to an announcement like this, right? A lot of people are asking the question, a well-deserved question, and a question that should be answered, why no David? Why no David? Why is the main character of Season 1 not showing up anywhere over here? And there's a simple answer. There's a simple realization that I think most players can have, and that's going to be this. David's dead. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a bit of a spoiler warning, unfortunately. David is dead. And one of the big things about CD Projekt Red, and one of the big things about how they manage the their original characters in their franchise, is that they want collabs, they want all of that stuff to stay friendly to the lore. And so there's a lot of people that are causing a bit of a ruckus at the moment, right? There's a lot of people that are very, very, very upset that the main character, the guy, right, that people were, very, very, very excited about, he's not going to be showing up. So we've got a bit of a slideshow. We've got a bit of a presentation prepared by one of the most premier Kuro bots and Edgerunner enjoyers in the space to talk about, A, why Lucy and Rebecca are showing up in the collaboration, and why David isn't. So let's go ahead. Let's start breaking this all down. Alrighty. So why David? I'm gonna need to move my chat around a little bit. Yeah, this mother put animations in here. Why David might not be playable. Kuro doesn't. Okay, you know what? This is gonna be the end of me. Hopefully that's the last move. Kuro doesn't hate male characters. That's something that we gotta get off our chest right off of the bat. Whenever there's a collab, they don't shy away from opportunities to put men into the game. The Punishing Gray Raven collaboration, right, with Devil May Cry is probably the biggest example of this that we can see. They just put 2 dudes in the update. That was it. It was just 2 dudes. Virgil, Mr. Motivation, and then Dante. That was it. Those were the only 2 characters that showed up in the collab. And then second, they had a Nier Automata collab where they put in 9S, a twink male. Examples of twink males in gacha games are like Ling Yang. That's the only one in Wuthering Waves. And the natural implication of that is that these units don't sell well at all. People don't like male players that pull in these games. They don't like the femboy design, but they still put 9S into the game. They still put 9S into the collab. So that's pretty much all the evidence that you should need from past collabs that this isn't really a thing, right? That Kuro Games is deciding to do themselves. I'm sure they would love to put David in the game if they could. Now, moving forward a little bit though, the IP holder, when it comes to this stuff, they have the biggest say. CD Projekt Red is kind of very, very, very strict when it comes to lore consistency compared to many other collab IP holders. And so in Edgerunners, David's arc has an intentional, definitive ending. He is dead, and he is confirmed to be dead in so much official materials, they just can't stop talking about it. You have the official Edgerunners July 6, 2025 post. David is dead, but Night City lives on. Edgerunners 2 is in production, coming to Netflix when it's ready. Bro, they didn't even put a spoiler warning in here. That's how common knowledge. Don't even, just get off my fucking back. You got this account over here opening the tweet with David is dead. Everyone knows he's dead. Then over here in the actual trailer, David's dead. They're really, really firm about that. They've emphasized that David's story is over and future projects are going to move on to new characters. And the whole theme of the Cyberpunk series is that there isn't a happy ending in Night City. And if you play 2077, you'll realize, yeah, there are a lot of bad endings in that game. Even Edgerunners 2 is confirmed to be a new standalone story with a different crew and not David's continuation. Yes, that's kind of like the vibe that they're going with, right? Set in the same setting, set in the same world, maybe chronologically, right? After what happened in the first Edgerunners, but it's not like you're going to be like, oh, revisiting Lucy and all of that shit. They're moving on and having a new cast, and maybe in the future, a new collab, who knows, right? And so, one of the only other collabs that we've had for Edgerunners is this Guilty Gear one that I've showed in a video in the past. This one only had Lucy. That one's pretty much well known. And this Lucy that they show in that collaboration is actually post-anime, post-Edgerunners Season 1. So she's calmer, she's more mature compared to what she was in the anime, and her characterization matches after that ending. And so, she also references moving on from Night City. And if you know the ending of Edgerunners when it comes to Lucy, well, it kind of makes sense why she has that vibe. And this is intentional, because they wanted her portrayal in that collab to respect the ending of Edgerunners Season 1. And some WuWa lore nerds on Reddit have already speculated that the collab story might also be post-anime. And potentially, depending on how closely they've collaborated with CD Projekt Red, right? Maybe it could be considered canon. Because one thing that's really interesting about the Devil May Cry collab over here, I think that this is actually canon. The ending of Devil May Cry 5 is that Virgil and Dante go to hell, and then they show up in the PGR universe. So basically, the PGR universe is like hell. That's essentially what the devs are spreading over here. Some WuWa lords are... Okay, so there's somebody in my chat saying that this is a leak. You're saying that some WuWa lore nerds speculating the collab story might be post-anime and canon? Because the past collab was post-anime and canon, you're saying that's a leak? Are you retarded? That's likely what's going to happen. And that's likely what's going to go on. Now, though, there's a lot of people that are going to dispute that, but there have been some dev interviews, right? There have been some talks. There's also more vague confirmation on why they chose Lucy and not David from that Guilty Gear Strive collaboration. I cannot talk much about why we chose Lucy, because that might spoil what we're trying to do. But there is a reason why we decided Lucy. Of course, I personally wanted to see David with the Sandy, but yeah, so I can't talk about it right now, but I hope people will figure it out in the future. That means the Guilty Gear Strive developers, right, wanted to put in David because he's got the literal time slowdown, giga speed up power up, which would have been sick in a fighting game, right? But they weren't able to finalize it. They weren't able to put it in. And now we have a second collaboration over here that's basically confirmed that David's not going to be in it as well. CD Projekt Red is also very strict, something that we talked about before, right? They want to avoid overusing David in ways that feel like it's, well, undoing his sacrifice, because we know there's a big one that's made in Edgerunners, turning him into kind of like this mascot for the game that gets spammed everywhere. Think about what 2B is for Nier Automata. Bro, she is just fucking everywhere. Like that dude doesn't give a fuck what you do with 2B. He's just like, we'll collab with everybody. Like, put her in every fucking game. That is what the Nier Automata dev basically goes with when it comes to collaborations. He's just like, hey, I'm down for it, bro. Just, hey, if you want to use it, use it. Doesn't matter. They don't want that for a character like David. It's kind of obvious at this point. And of course, because that might end up weakening the emotional impact of the anime. CD Projekt Red, they also treat Cyberpunk a little bit differently from typical anime IPs. Most of them will just say, put the MC everywhere. Lucy is sort of like the second MC, but we all know, like, David's meant to be the one that resonates with most people. Yeah, they're not really doing that. And their philosophy is closer to cinematic franchises. Strong canon continuity, fewer crossovers, controlled brand identity, and narrative-first decisions. And that's why there are very few Edgerunners collabs. However, this also means that CD Projekt Red is probably going to be very open in the future to having a Witcher collab. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know how Ciri works, her magical superpower is opening portals to other worlds. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Ciri from The Witcher, her magical superpower is opening portals to other worlds, and in lore, Ciri actually visits the Cyberpunk universe at some point. So, if this collab goes well, we're likely going to have some kind of Witcher collab in the future, especially knowing that Witcher 4 is coming out soon, right? And how sick would it be to have, I don't know, Ciri and Geralt in the game? Because guess what? Geralt, I don't think that dude is dead. Yeah, I don't think in canon that dude is dead. I don't think so. He actually has a lot of happy endings. Yeah, no, Geralt has a lot of happy endings in Blood and Wine as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, maybe we get a little bit of Triss. Maybe we get a little bit of Yennefer as well. Just saying. Now it's time for the elephant in the room. Now it's time to address what's going on. So why is Rebecca here? Because, spoiler warning again, ladies and gentlemen, Rebecca also died in Edgerunners. However, CD Projekt Red doesn't really care about her. And here's the proof. Rebecca wasn't even planned by CD Projekt Red. They're an original anime character by the studio. They didn't actually plan to have her, and they wanted to cut her out, but were stopped by the studio. And so it's kind of like Rebecca's obviously a popular character, right? Rebecca's obviously like an add to the anime that a lot of people like, but she's an original character. And remember how we talked about how CD Projekt Red really likes their vision for things? They're probably of the mindset that it's kind of like, whatever. I don't really give a fuck about her. This wasn't even something that we wanted, that we had in our original vision. You can just put her in, fuck it, whatever. And, you know, I guess she fits. I guess that was something that Kuro wanted to do, because they also didn't want to have just a one collab. Because, like, guys, let's just be honest. If they couldn't put in David, who else were they gonna put in? Yeah, what were they gonna make Adam Smasher a Resonator? No, you can't do that. You can't just make Adam Smasher a Resonator, bro. That would be, like, illegal. He's probably gonna be a hologram boss. Bro, like, there... It would arguably be sick if, like, this guy... Dude, he's too ugly. He's too ugly to be a playable character. So if they can't put in David, they can only put in Lucy. Who else would they have chosen other than Rebecca? Let's just be honest here. And so, that's probably the likely explanation for why Rebecca's in the collab. Despite the fact that she's dead, Kuro Games needed a second character. And they needed a second character that actually would be well known enough to make sense. I already see motherfuckers putting in characters from Cyberpunk 2077. Motherfuckers, it's Cyberpunk Edgerunners, not Cyberpunk 2077. You can't just put in V. You can't just put in, like, Hanako. You can't put in, like, Takanasha. No, you can't put in Johnny Silverhand either. Keanu Reeves is not in Edgerunners. Anyways, so you can see over here that people don't seem to understand the difference between Edgerunners and 2077. This is the thing. I played 2077, so I know who can't be in the collab. It would be sick to have Keanu in there, though. So hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, this has explained to a pretty good degree why Kuro Games has made the decisions that they made. And, of course, it's probably the only path that they could have taken. And my personal opinion is that this is a bit of like an introductory deal when it comes to the collaboration between Wuthering Waves, Kuro Games, Cyberpunk Edgerunners, and CD Projekt Red. I hope that this turns into a very fruitful relationship that we see more and more of in the future, because there's a lot more out there than just the Cyberpunk Edgerunners universe. And I would dare argue that when it comes to like a gacha gamer, or really just like a gamer as a whole, and specifically Wuthering Waves players, there's probably going to be a lot more interest in maybe like a 2077 collab, or like I said before, a Witcher collab. Because I think people would honestly be way more excited to play Geralt or Ciri in Wuthering Waves than they would be for Lucy and Rebecca. That's my personal take. I am way more of a fan of like the Witcher franchise than I am for the Cyberpunk one. I liked Witcher 3 more than 2077. That was my shit back in the day. That shit came out like 11 years ago, bro. And it's been an absolute banger ever since. Edgerunners kind of seems like the safest IP, at least in my opinion, to start off with, because it's an anime-only thing. It's not an actual game. 2077, on the other hand, a collab with that would be a little bit more dicey, because that's one of CD Projekt Red's flagship products. Because remember, CD Projekt Red is a game-first company. And then The Witcher is like CD Projekt Red's like #1 franchise. It is like their bread and butter. It is like the shit that they're known for. Witcher being so fucking good is why Cyberpunk had hype in the first place. And so they're probably saving that one for like last. They're like, hey, you guys gotta prove yourself first. You guys gotta know what you're doing. We need to know that you're not gonna like molest our IP before we trust you with the golden child. And that's Witcher as a whole. Witcher, ladies and gentlemen, is the golden child. My hope is that this collab goes exceedingly well. Well, I'm going to be honest, though. The fact that it accidentally got leaked might also mean that it's not going exceedingly well. But who knows, guys? This could just be an attempt. This could just be an intended leak. Because we all know how the Streisand effect works, right? We all know how the Streisand effect works. When you delete something off the internet, that can oftentimes make it so that people actively search it out more. I wouldn't even be surprised if this was intended as a marketing procedure. Because you drop it, a lot of people see it, then it gets deleted, and people are like, wait, something got leaked, something got deleted? Oh shit, wait, we need to go check it out. Wait, we need to go see that. Wait, I need to see what got deleted. It's a classic strategy that has been done by a lot of different companies. This could literally just be an actual psyop done to draw even more interest in the collab. And the fact that it's gotten deleted, right, so close to the anniversary, we're probably going to get news on it. Well, I think it's actually all intended. I don't think that somebody with this much experience in the space is actually like this it would do something like this stupid on like accident. I think that they were told, hey, this will be a good way to drum up some of the hype. Let's do it. Delete it on this schedule. Blah, blah, blah. All of that. And if that's the case, I'm going to be honest. I think it fucking worked. But yeah, that's going to be our video over here on all of like the Cyberpunk news, all of that. Why we're not going to be seeing David, because that's something that they've been very, very, very consistent about. And it showed up pretty much everywhere imaginable. Let me know what you all thought about this one. Peace out.